Tampa General Hospital and USF Health, Morsani College of Medicine are bringing the power of academic medicine to Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. For nearly 2 decades, Tampa General has been ranked as one of the nation's best hospitals. And for over 50 years, Tampa General has been Florida's leading academic health system. Learn more about their growing network of physicians at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches. All right, welcome back to the Palm Beach North podcast. My name is Noel Martinez. I'm your host, and today I'm so excited to have my boy here, Adam El-Hosseiny. I've known this guy, we just figured it out, for close to 15 years. He is the COO and co-owner of Access Medical Labs. He's got over 20 years of experience in diagnostics, has been at the helm of one of the fastest growing labs in the industry. He's guided it through a 10x growth. This guy's amazing. Adam, thank you, my man. Thank you for being here today.
No, well, thank you for the intro. Very humbled, and thank you for having me.
It's good to see you, man. So, all right, for the viewers at home that don't know what Access Medical Labs does, tell us a little bit about the company.
So, Access is one of the largest specialty diagnostic labs in the country, and we specialize in testing through blood, saliva, and urine.
Okay.
We use 50% less blood and deliver results in 24 hours, and that's a pretty big deal. To give you perspective, a lot of labs take 5 to 7 days to deliver results on our panels compared to our 24 hours. So it's definitely
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So tell me about the company. How many employees?
About 175.
175 employees.
Yeah.
You're based right here in our backyard in Jupiter, right? Right here in Palm Beach North, right?
Based in Jupiter, Florida, but we service the whole country, which I'm very proud to say. There's only one state that we don't operate in at the moment. It's New York.
Okay.
But we are getting the license. So next year when I come back, I'll be telling you different.
Love it. Love it. So do you have labs all over the country, or is the labs are here but you work in other states?
Yep. So basically we perform all the testing in our state-of-the-art facility right here in Jupiter. But all of our clients and physicians and, practices and wellness centers are nationwide. They draw the blood in their facility, and we receive all samples the very next day via UPS.
Okay. All right. Well,
That's our logistics partner. I love UPS.
Great. Awesome. So we are going to get into the company a little bit later, right? But I want people to get to know you a little bit because you've got an awesome story.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning.
Let's do it.
What were you like growing up as a kid? Were you this little entrepreneur kid running around trying to sell something?
Okay. So I don't know. I wouldn't take the title entrepreneur kid, but I tell you what I was. I was in love with the deal, whatever that means. And I'm talking at a young age, because my parents never got us the Pokémon cards or the Game Boy or the PlayStation. So at a young age, I had to figure out how to get my hands on these items. So I'm talking like 9 years old, 10 years old. Somehow I hustled my way to get my first Pokémon card. And then from there, I'm trading until I finally had this amazing collection and never spent $1. It was all from the trade. And I was getting high at that age from the deal, right? I knew I loved it. And then when I got into middle school, high school, I was selling fake Jacob watches. Jacob & Co. had the diamond watch and whatnot, and I would have great customer service. I was selling them for $20, and if a diamond fell out, it's a fake diamond, of course, my customers would come back to me, and I had my little screwdriver, and I would pop the chip diamond out and put a brand new one in, use the glue, and bring them back a perfect watch. And that was my spiel. So I always started doing things like that, and as we got older, it turned into I was selling CDs. So to answer your question, I don't know if entrepreneur is the word, but I was in love with the deal at a very young age.
All right, let's talk about your family. You've mentioned that before. It's a family-owned business.
It is.
Right? Your family's originally from Egypt.
Yes.
Right? So talk to me about the story. How did your parents end up here? How did the company start?
Great question. So my parents came here from Egypt, if I'm not mistaken. Mom, Dad, if you're listening, don't be mad, but I think it was like late 1970s or 80s, something like that.
In the 70s, 80s. All right, I got you.
So they came to New York. And they always excelled at what they did. They were always in. My father was a biochemist, has a master's in that. My mom was a microbiologist. They always led the largest hospitals in New York and were always moving up in rank. When they came to Florida, they were working at the VA right on Blue Heron, and they wanted to start a lab. They saw a big gap in the industry down here. So basically in New York, there's a lot of privately owned labs, and they service the doctors in the area with quick turnaround time. They're more nimble. They're able to be more adaptable to what the client wants. In Florida, that didn't, at least here in South Florida, there weren't many when they came down. So they're like, okay, well, we need to start something that addresses the gap in the market, which is great customer service, quick turnaround time, and better blood draws. So long behold, 2003, they started Access Medical Labs in a small 3,500 square foot facility in Jupiter, along with my oldest brother, Sharif, and it kind of blew from there. But that's how it began.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've got two brothers. I know that.
I do. I'm the youngest of three.
So the youngest of three.
Yep.
What were dinners like? Like the three brothers and your parents. Your parents now started this successful business.
Yep.
They're probably working like crazy.
Correct.
I mean, I'm sure starting a new business like that, especially growing to the size that it's grown. So what were your dinners like? Like, what were those conversations like?
Dinners were probably Pollo Tropical at the lab. I had to go do a food run, and we eat at the lab. And we're not leaving until all the work's done. And that can be 11 p.m., 12 p.m. So it was long nights. There are, a lot of sacrifice. My parents didn't have a weekend. There was no vacation. It was sacrifice. And, I think it paid off. But the work that has to get put in to get to where we are today should never be forgotten. That startup phase is an experience that many few get to go through, but if you go through it, it's extremely challenging. And I witnessed it. I was very young. I'm not saying I did it, but to witness what they did, it was tremendous.
Yeah, you were there along for the ride watching them. You had these great role models right there in front of you showing how to get it done.
That's exactly right.
Awesome. So outside of your family, we all have people that we really look up to or people that have had big influences on us. Do you have anyone like that in your life? Or anyone that you've really looked up to?
I definitely looked up to both of my brothers and my father, but for different reasons, right? I like pick and choose what I really like and then kind of take it and add it into my arsenal of who I want to become. But Ryan was a huge influence. We were super close. I mean, he was just such a visionary. His work ethic was just tremendous. So yeah, Ryan was probably my biggest. And then you have my older brother, Sharif, who was just, a staple in who I became as a man. And then my father as well taught me so much about work ethic. And I mean, he didn't even let us play PlayStation during the week. So he would take the remote of the PlayStation away and hide it somewhere in his room during the week. And then Friday nights, when he comes home from work, he gives us the remote. Sunday night, he takes it back. It was work during the week. There was no play.
I get it. No, that's good. What about, so let's talk about school.
Yeah.
Where'd you end up going to school?
So I went straight from high school into the pros. So I was in Palm Beach Gardens High, and I had about a 3.7 GPA. So school was never challenging for me, especially math. Math was my favorite. And my father instilled that in me at a very young age. He said, math, that's what you're going to take with you the rest of your life. And I have to agree. But nonetheless, so I was getting scholarships to go to UCF and other universities, and I sat with my family, and I'm happy to say they didn't pressure me. It wasn't like you have to come join the family business. It was more so whatever you want to do, we're going to support. And I was surprised, but pleased at the same time, because I knew they could use my help, right? Because this was 2008. So we had only been in business for 5 years. And I had sat and thought about it, and I just thought I could add way more value into the family business, and that was my decision. And I went straight into sales.
Did you ever think that you could have done something different? Like if you weren't working at Access Medical Labs or running the company, because you're running it now.
Yeah.
Anything else you would probably be doing?
Yeah, I think I would probably be somewhere in the entertainment industry or maybe high-end jewelry. I used to love, that's my thing. I could definitely see something like that.
Get me in trouble.
But yeah, for sure. But yeah, I would have definitely operated. I don't know how big it would have scaled.
Yeah.
But for sure, I would have operated my own entity 100% because I think even in high school, they were inviting me to go overseas because I was excelling in my leadership class. So I think I have those skills, and I really enjoy to lead a team. And I mean that from an unselfish way, because a lot of people think being the leader or being the boss or being the owner means that you have more flexibility or more freedom. And what they don't understand is it's actually the opposite way. A real leader eats last. A real leader is giving so much to his team, setting them up for success. So when I say I want to be a leader, it's not because I want to be the boss, but more so I enjoy setting people up, setting a system up for everyone to become successful.
So working with a family probably comes with like a lot of highs and lows, right? I mean, there's probably some amazing times, and there's some times where you guys want to kill each other, right?
I don't know how we're all alive. One of us should have been dead.
Well, talk to me about that. What are some of the biggest highs and what are some of the challenges of working with your family?
Oh, it's a lot. I think, and when I say that, I'm speaking past tense, the journey of finally figuring it out, right? It took 20 years. But you know, in those, when you guys are working and building together, there's a lot of emotion involved, a lot of feelings, and then it's your family. So typically, like, you know, people speak better to their coworkers than they would their mom and dad.
There's
sometimes,
no filter
or
when mom's
brother.
talking to you, right?
Right. So you know, that creates challenges and arguing, and then you might have fought over something that was work related on a Friday, and you don't want to go to family dinner on Saturday now because it's mixing. You're taking business and personal, and it's kind of clashing. So I think those are some of the biggest challenges that you have to overcome. But if you can figure out how to separate, right, business and putting your ego and your feelings aside and separating the business from the family and operate as a true organization, magic will happen. Because one of the main things for a successful organization is already there, which is trust. The trust is there, and you know everyone has good intent. So if you're coming together and you know you're not looking over your shoulder thinking this person's stealing or setting me up for failure, you all trust each other, you have the right intent, and you're putting in the work, I think that's a recipe for success.
So before we get into the business a little bit, you know, you're still a young guy, right? But you've accomplished a lot in a young age. We were just talking about you're 34 years old, right? We were laughing earlier. We're like, what would we do if we went back 10, 15 years? What would you tell that guy, Adam? What would you tell Adam 15 years ago?
15 years ago?
What kind of advice would you give that guy?
That's a great question. I would tell Adam that he doesn't have to do everything himself and to listen more. I would say those two things.
That's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
God, I know a lot of older Noels that need to hear that.
Well, it's one of those where it took experience and going through things to in hindsight, you look back and you're like, wow, like the leader I've become today is way different than 15 years ago. And at that time, I thought leading was always having the answers and always telling, when in reality, leading is a lot of listening, and making sure that you put the right people around you. So I think that's what I would say.
Adam, you probably work like crazy, man. I'm sure you work crazy hours. What do you do when you're not working? What do you do to unwind? How do you relax? Do you have any hobbies?
Well, first of all, I'm never not working. It sucks, but that's my mind's always, sometimes I'm trying to sleep and I can't. So it's not the best, but I understand the context of your question. Mm-hmm. So what do? I mean, I'm pretty chill. I love my nice dinner. Like I'll go out to Miami, go to a nice dinner. I'll gym for sure, get a nice workout in on a Saturday, love some basketball. So I like to be outside and staying active, love my nice dinners, maybe a movie. I mean, that's really it. If I can take a nice trip, which I just did to Italy, that's amazing.
Where'd you go? I love Italy. Where'd you go?
Oh my God. I went to Amalfi, which was amazing. We did Positano. I did Capri. Capri's probably one of my faves. We did Ischia. Have you heard of Ischia?
No. I have not been there. Or heard of it. I haven't even heard of it.
No disrespect to Ischia, if anyone's from Ischia, but no need to go back. So, and then of course Milan. I did Milan as well, which is a big city, you know, the usual. But I have to say it was Capri and Amalfi. I'll be back.
Yeah, I spent my 40th birthday in the Amalfi Coast and had a great time in Positano.
Oh,
gorgeous.
Dreamy.
Yeah, I still look at pictures and I'm like, I stayed in that pink house right there in the middle. I stayed in that Airbnb right there, man. It was such a great trip.
Did you? Okay, and when you're, because you have to go by boat. There's no other way.
Well, you could get to Positano, you could get to it, but it takes you forever in a car.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Capri, you had to go by boat.
Capri by boat.
Positano, you go by car. Okay, well, the point is I came in via boat from Capri, and that image, like when you're pulling up,
it's
of
iconic,
those hotels and houses in the mountains, breathtaking.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And the sunsets there are unbelievable, man.
Unreal.
All right, let's talk about the business a little bit.
Yes.
All right, so you joined Access in 2004?
2004, 14 years old.
14.
Yep.
How has the company changed since then? Because, my God, we've had something, you ever heard of this thing called COVID that came in? I'm sure that really changed things a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
It's evolved. See, I mean, there's so much that changed. I think ultimately the most important thing that shouldn't change remained, and that's our core values, right? So that promise to the customer remained. The 24-hour turnaround time remained. You know, the ability to serve our customers at the highest level remained. So a lot of those core values, right, have remained. However, as far as how we operate, how we communicate, how we do things, it's evolved tremendously. Everything from technology to better processes internally, more people, more positions, more of a whole lot, right? And a lot of innovation as well. Our ability to handle the capacity that we do. When we started, we didn't have the instrumentation to do this volume.
According to the American Cancer Society, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the US in both men and women. Often asymptomatic, it can go undiagnosed for a long time. But when symptoms do appear, it's usually because the cancer has spread, making survival less likely. Early screenings are critical to detect and treat lung cancer. Recently, the United States Preventative Task Force dropped the recommended age for annual lung cancer screenings to age 50. The screening is a simple CT scan ordered by your primary care physician. Most insurance plans cover the screening for adults over 50 that currently or have previously averaged a pack a day of cigarette smoking for 20 years.
This Medical Minute is brought to you by Tampa General Hospital and USF Health, Morsani College of Medicine at the University of South Florida. Learn more at tgh.org/the Palm Beaches.
So I think it was just a very large evolution over the course of the last 20 years. But at its core, Access has the same beliefs.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Is there something, throughout your career that has really stood out? Something you're like, wow, I am really proud of that.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot, but I think the things that make me most proud is being able to set up systems that help other people grow internally. So when I see someone enter the company at X position and you help them grow and keep elevating, and then now they're either in an executive level position or upper management position, whatever that may be, that's probably the most fulfilling. But I think another thing I'm very proud of, along with my family, is our ability to adapt. It's not easy. Even you mentioned COVID. I mean, that was picture a tidal wave coming at your business. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And so you gotta move extremely quick, be extremely nimble, and you can't break or fold. You gotta step up to the challenge. And we're talking literally, my brother sleeping in the office for 2 days, literally on the floor. Like, that's the type of stepping up I'm talking about, right?
People don't talk about the commitment you have to do to make a small business, not so small anymore, but a family-owned business like that work.
Correct.
Sleeping on the floor, probably in the office.
That's correct.
It's crazy.
That's correct.
People just don't get it.
Correct. And it's literally do or die. It's fight or flight. It's, I have to make this happen, and nothing is going to get in my way, period. There's no excuses. We're going to figure this thing out. And that's the type of mindset you have to have. I think communication is critical. Like right now, everyone's being challenged with our growth. But one of the worst things you can do is bottle things up, right? If it's getting too challenging, let's talk about it. Let's communicate. But either way, I don't want to veer off, but I hope that answers your question.
No, it does 100%. So let's talk about growth, right? You guys have grown tremendously. We talked about a 10x. You've grown 10x since you've come on board. You've got to take risks to grow.
Correct.
Right? Talk to me about some of the biggest career risks that you've taken and what you've learned, or the business has taken.
That's a great question. You know, I think ultimately, as far as high risk, my parents took the biggest risk, right? They put it all on the line. So we got to acknowledge that. For them, it was, we're going all in. And if this thing fails, we're back at the VA and our credit score goes to 0. But you get it? So they put it all on the line in 2003. As far as, you know, with me, any high level risks, I think the risks that I have taken were more so on company direction. And thank God it's panned out. We haven't made too many bad plays, if you will.
Yeah.
But even if we did, we've made more good plays than bad plays. So net, we're good.
Yeah.
So for me, those are probably the type of risks that I've taken: direction, company branding, how do we want the image to be, things of that nature. But we've done pretty well, thank God.
So we've talked a lot about leadership, right? And under your leadership, Access has grown by tenfold. We've said that multiple times here on the thing, which is huge, a big deal. What leadership qualities do you feel that have helped you guys achieve that?
Okay, so one, I think the first thing is rolling up your sleeves with your team. That's such an, and I spoke about this earlier, about the whole leadership part. You gotta show them that you're in it with them. So I think that's probably one of the most important leadership qualities. Number two is gonna be empathy. You gotta be there for your people, talk to them, feel for them, because it is gonna get challenging, and not everybody can handle the same amount of load. And not everybody operates like you. Like sometimes as a leader, you have the warrior mindset and you're going all out no matter what. If you have to work till 3 a.m., whatever, it doesn't matter, you're getting it done. But you got to remember, not everybody on your team is going to have that mindset. So having empathy, kind of understanding what they could be feeling on that end, that's critical, right? And then I think lastly is just being there to supporting the team. It's critical. Making sure they have everything they need for success. What systems, processes, tools, technology, whatever we need. Do you need more people? So support, rolling up your sleeves, and empathy. I think those three are critical. There's definitely more, but those are the three I'll mention.
Let's talk about needing more people, right? That leads me to challenges, right? With all this growth comes some challenges.
Oh my God.
So talk to me about that. What have been some of the toughest parts of scaling, and how have you handled it? How's the company handled it?
Sure. So I think one of the toughest parts, I would say one of the toughest is going to be just having the operational back end that can handle the exponential growth that a company is experiencing. A lot of the times, if you're growing by 50% or 100%, whatever those increments are, in your forecast, you're not calculating all the strain it's going to put on certain departments or on certain people or on the space in your facility. So I think just having that operational back end to handle the growth is probably one of the most challenging. And then the other piece is going to be having the people. You need the right people on the bus. You need to have good managers, good leaders, people who want to own their work. It's about owning your department. You know what I mean? Like, we need leaders, and everyone is a leader in the company, and everyone needs to know that it's not just the manager's a leader and you're coming in. Everyone should be a leader in their own right. So it's about finding those quality employees. I think that's a challenge.
Yeah, that empowerment's huge. You know, I talk about that all the time. You've got to empower your people to make decisions and lead. You got to give them the tools they need to lead. So I love that you said that. All right, so innovation's key, right?
Yes.
Especially in your industry. In any industry is important, but in your industry is probably even more important. So how do you encourage a culture of creativity and improvement at Access? Because you want to continue to get better every single day.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that, because progress is key at Access. We're constantly trying to be better each and every day. And we have initiatives in place that help our managers grow. So we have one initiative, which I'll mention, called Operational Excellence. And that really helps our leaders within the organization strengthen their process improvement, strengthen their communication between departments, because that's key. Strengthen the way they're recognizing their employees, rewarding their employees. We're also launching what's called Access Rewards Plus next year. If there's any employees watching, I'm sorry I ruined the surprise, by the way. You're the first to know. So
we'll edit it out.
That's funny. So Access Rewards Plus, and that's to reward those that are going above and beyond. But at the moment, we're constantly getting feedback. So we have feedback mechanisms in place where we're meeting with certain manager. Every manager is at least meeting with someone in upper management once a week at the minimum, aside from group meetings. And we're constantly hearing them out, but also asking for suggestions, asking for feedback, asking for them to propose solutions. Everyone knows, don't just bring us the problem, bring us the solution. And if they have a really good solution, a lot of times we'll give them a bonus. So to your question, how do we kind of acknowledge those who do that? I think a lot of times we'll give out bonuses. We want them to know that we appreciate your feedback and your innovative ideas.
Awesome. All right, so something really big happened last year in 2023.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about your partnership with Empresas. Did I say that right? Empresas Arias?
So it's Empresas Arias, right?
Okay.
And that's actually the parent company. And then the actual lab is called Grupo Diagnostico Arias.
Okay.
So they're the second largest lab in Mexico. Empresas Arias is the holding company. They invest in real estate, healthcare, and banking, right? So they have banks, real estate, and school and education.
Okay.
So that's their 4 sectors. So Grupo Diagnostico Arias is the lab that acquired a piece of Access. So we have a very, very, I would say, fruitful partnership. I'm very pleased on how it turned out, because a lot of times when you hear about a partnership or an acquisition, you start thinking of what? Change, or a different direction, or people getting fired. Like, a lot of times that's what's associated when you hear that. But thank God, not only has everyone kept their positions, but we've onboarded a lot of people since then. We've grown tremendously, and it's just been a very fruitful partnership. I'm very pleased with them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's zoom out a little bit, right? Let's kind of look very high level. Let's talk about the industry.
Yeah.
Right? What are some trends in your industry that you're excited about, man, that like you get up in the middle of the night and be like, that's going to be awesome?
2 things. One, I'm very excited about the AI that's being adopted in healthcare. That's
talk to me
so
about,
excited.
All right, so talk to me about that. How does that affect your industry?
So for me, I'm looking at it more from like the sales side, because I know there's been like AI in healthcare to assist with like surgeries and all this stuff, right? We're not in that side of the space, right? We're a diagnostic lab. You can't get an artificial intelligence lab technologist, right? Like, you're gonna need a person to do that. I think there's been a lot of automation, which is great, but as far as AI from like the sales side and the lead gen side and all that, I'm just very excited on what it's gonna do for that team to help them be more efficient and get the brand out there quicker, faster, and get doctors to use us at a quicker rate. So that part's really exciting. And then the other trend I'm very excited about is the openness to holistic medicine and the awareness that traditional medicine is just not quite cutting it right now. That's a big trend. Obviously, our numbers show it, you know? And remember, we're nationwide, so it's a pooled geographic region, and we're seeing growth from every territory. It's not, you know, segmented to South Florida or segmented to New Jersey. It's nationwide.
Yeah.
And not only do we see, we're involved with a lot of academies that train doctors on anti-aging medicine, holistic medicine, preventative medicine, integrative medicine, whatever you want to call it. And each year there's thousands and thousands of physicians that are getting accredited so they can go practice this medicine. So we see the growth in the physicians that are practicing it, but we also see the increase in demand. And I think that industry as a whole, between now and 2030, is growing at like 8.6% KGAR, which is tremendous when you're talking multi-billion, right? So the growth is exceptional. So that trend gets us excited, because it lets us know, listen, guys, the type of testing that we've specialized in, the type of instrumentation that we've brought in-house was definitely the right decision. We're in the right sector.
So your industry moves fast, man. I mean, it's really, really fast. So how do you stay ahead of the competition? Because I know there's a lot of competition out there.
We stay ahead by honestly focusing on ourselves. There was a story, Simon Sinek.
That's a freaking great answer.
Yeah,
man.
and I'll explain. I'm aware of all the competitors. I'm not even gonna call them competitors. They're just other labs to me, because we do what we do and we do it the best. So for me, Simon Sinek had a great story. He said there was a gentleman that sat in on a Microsoft board meeting, right? And all they discussed in that board meeting was Apple. Then the gentleman sat in on an Apple board meeting, and all they discussed was how to make the customer happier. And when I heard that, I'm like, that is the right way to go. So for us, it's about customer obsession. It's about understanding the industry and not only listening to our customers, right? But also trying to stay ahead of the curve. And I told you this in the beginning. We want to make sure we're fulfilling our customers' needs and giving them all the tools that they want and whatever they need to make their lives easier. If we have to innovate to do it or create new software, we'll do it. But we also want to figure out what they need that they don't know that they need. And you got to stay ahead, right? And just adopt. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, that's how we do it. We don't discuss competitors. When we sit at that table, it's what do we need to do to be better?
So innovation, you mentioned it, right?
Yeah.
What innovation do you think is going to really make the biggest impact in your industry in years to come? Not right now, not tomorrow, but 5, 10, 15 years.
I think the biggest innovation is going to be, if this can even be done. Okay. But do you remember Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes?
I don't.
Well, she's in jail now, okay. But she raised, she was in Forbes. She was the first billionaire lady, and she's known for her little picture, and she's like this, and there's literally like a drop of blood in her hand. And she had, I don't want to get into too much details here, but the point is she was basically saying she can do every test from one drop of blood. So the point is, if that can be done, I think that's going to be the biggest. I mean, can you imagine getting a drop of blood to do a full comprehensive panel? I don't know if it can be done, to be honest. I don't know. But if that was to happen, that would be the biggest innovation.
All right, let's talk a little bit about, let's go reflect back a little bit, right? You've had a very successful career at Access at a young age already. What are some of the biggest lessons that you learned, or what is the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Biggest lesson that I've learned? Don't take things personal. Always listen. Work extremely hard. And be likable. If that can be one, that's one lesson in one.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, that's perfect.
One lesson in one.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, talk to me a little bit about how you've changed over the years. How have you, Adam, changed and evolved as a leader?
Absolutely. Wow. So much, I think.
And I've known you. Remember, I've known you for over 12 years, 12 something years. So I've seen you.
So I can't BS you. I can't BS you on this one.
I'm gonna call you out.
I think it goes, the biggest thing is what I mentioned already, which was the listening. Like, that's so important as a leader. I also think just being more calm, not being as hasty, right? Really kind of digesting everything before you come to that decision. You don't need to boom, boom, boom all the time. I mean, we're definitely a fast growing company, so a lot of decisions do need to be made quickly. But overall, as a leader, I think listening, taking time before you make that decision. I mean, ultimately, I think those are probably the two biggest changes that were, I think, instrumental, right? They sound small, but they go such a long way, because I had a lot of other qualities, like as far as kind of trying to boost morale and make sure everyone can understand the vision and communication. I was very strong at those things, at least I believe. Mm-hmm. So those things were already there. But I think those two qualities of listening and not being too hasty and making sure we're digesting everything and communicating, I think that was probably the biggest changes as a leader.
How do you define success?
I want to say one more thing though.
Yeah, go back.
And then I'll define success.
Yeah, okay, go back.
I think it ties right into your question. So I think the other thing, as a leader is the why has changed too. That's because at that young age, it was all about, not all about, but a lot of the why was, to move up in rank, to make more money, to get the watch, to get the car, like those type of whys, right? Now, that doesn't drive me.
What does?
It's the success of the people and success of the company. Like I want to see Access win. I'm COO. I mean, so it's not like I'm like shooting for some up position. So that's not the driving force. It's more so, how do I get my people to succeed and keep growing? Because all of them have so much potential, and I want to see all of them continue to grow. But the only way they can grow is if we grow as a whole, and that drives me so much. And seeing how far we can take this thing, like to be able to touch this many customers and this many doctors and this many lives, that drives me. How do we become better? How do we become bigger? Do you follow me? Like that, it's not. I'm not doing a charity, to be clear, but that's not the main driving force like it used to be.
Love it.
But I love money.
Yeah, we all
Just
do.
to be clear.
Yeah, we all do.
All right.
So we're coming up on we've got to close this thing up. I could be here all day with you, man. This has been a lot of fun, but I want to ask you like a fun question, and then I want to ask you a deep question.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with the fun question.
Okay. I love fun
All right.
questions.
You could have dinner with anybody.
Yeah.
Going back in history, an industry leader, local elected officials. Who would you like to have dinner? And it can't be Noel.
Okay. If it's not you, because that was going to be my answer, I'm going to go with Dale Carnegie.
Why?
Because his philosophy and like the way he thought. See, his approach to business, a lot of times you'll have great business leaders that have a very when they speak, it's very like traditional, and it's based on like this calculation and this calculation and this spreadsheet and blah, blah, blah. And if we do this, whatever. So his way, though, what he brought to the table, it was like this philosophy about the person and about how the person thinks. And he was very focused on what you do from 5 to 9 determines how you are from 9 to 5. And that whole philosophy and about having the vision and actualizing things. And like no one, like you don't go to school and read a book and then they focus on that. Never. It's all of the tactics in school. They're not teaching you that the mental side of it, right? And so for me, he's just such an interesting leader, and I would love to sit and pick his brain.
That's awesome.
I mean, what he's done, look at what he's built. He was amazing.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, he's like
That's a good
top.
one.
Yeah, he's a big deal.
All right, last question. It's
All
the
right.
deep one I was telling you about.
All right, tell me the deep
All
one.
right, I try to ask this to everybody because you're still young, right?
Okay.
You're still way young. But when you're long gone, man, 40, 50 years from now, 60 years from now, when you're gone, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about Adam? This dude was what?
This dude was extremely hardworking and extremely generous and cared about people and never tried to hurt a soul. That would be amazing. Like, I don't even like to say the wrong thing in a meeting that could hurt someone's feelings. I'll literally like call my brother and I'm like, do you think that was too rough? Did I hurt? When it's business, it's business. But sometimes if you hurt someone, I don't like to say things that might hurt someone.
You care.
I care.
You care about people.
So for me, if I can have that, that would be amazing.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Dude, this has been great.
But hopefully I don't have that anytime soon.
Nah.
I want to keep living.
No, I said like 70, 80 years, man. I said long, way out.
I don't want to get into a car accident when I leave here.
Stop.
All
Don't
right.
knock on wood right now. That's not happening.
God
All right.
forbid.
So anything we missed? Anything? So where can people find more information on Access Medical Labs?
Absolutely. AccessMedLab.com. ACCESS.
You're on all
MED.
socials, probably all over everything.
All socials at Access Med Lab. Yeah. And I think that's really it, right?
Yep. That's it, my man. This was awesome. Thank
Noel.
you. It has been a long time since I've seen you. I'm glad we got to catch up. This
Me
was
too.
fun, man. This was really, really good time.
Me too. Thank you for having
All
me.
right. Well, for everyone listening at home and watching at home, thank you again for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you a couple weeks. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Thank you so much.